Good evening. Welcome to the March 23rd, 2015 meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Can I have a motion, please, to approve the minutes from March 9th, 2015?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Pat, second by Betsy. All in favor?
Aye.
I don't think we have any public participation today, so we'll move on to a few items before we get to a presentation. I have several resignations of precinct tellers that I'm going to read the resignations all together, and then we'll have a motion after that. A motion to accept the resignation of Charlotte Hedger, accept the resignation of Thomas Campbell, to accept the resignation of John Malatesta, and to accept the resignation of Mary Malatesta. Can I have a vote on that, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Paul, second by Betsy. All in favor?
Aye.
And do I have, I'd like to make a motion to, strike that. There will be a motion to appoint Robert Vinson. I'm going to take that out of order. With regard to the approving warden precincts, approve the appointment of Joseph Neal to precinct 3. I'm sorry?
Warden precinct 3.
A warden at precinct. A motion to approve the appointment of Joan Green to precinct 3, and approve Winifred Ledoux to precinct 3.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
is that Tom Campbell, former police chief?
Yes.
Former police officer?
Yes.
I don't know how long he's been doing it, but good luck to him in his retirement.
He said we could call him if we really needed him.
He's
He
a
came in.
great person.
Oh, he is. He's a wonderful guy.
Can I also please have a motion to appoint Robert Vincent, his letter is in our packet, to the Veterans Advisory Board with a term expiring April 30th, 2016?
Second, for discussion?
Certainly.
This gentleman approached me. He moved to Wakefield a few months ago. He's a retired JAG. And he's as sharp as a tack, and he wanted to become involved in the community. His wife is now on the Disability Commission.
He came to a meeting.
Yes, he did. He came to a meeting, and he's very interested in this, and I think as well as, he's also interested, and I'd like, if it could be relayed to Chairman Falvey, he's interested in that Human Rights Commission that Brian talked about a few weeks ago, a couple of meetings ago. So I was thrilled that Mr. Vincent got back to me, and I'm very pleased that he's appointed.
Excellent, yes, he was an impressive man. Do we have okay. All in favor of appointing Mr. Vincent?
Aye. We
also have,
Yeah, all right.
do we bring Dennis up? Yes?
Yes.
You snuck up while I was talking. We have Dennis Fazio with Rick Stinson here, who Dennis has been awarded the 2014 Sports Turf Manager of the Year Award. Rick, can you talk about that?
Sure. You know, it's a great honor for both town and for Dennis especially. It's his peers. The New England Sports Turf Management Association is the largest chapter in the country for sports turf managers. Recognizes the great work Dennis does for the town, his knowledge, dedication and commitment to the town, and his creativeness in making Wakefield sports fields and grounds, you know, a great showplace and excellent to use. And you know, he deserves a big round of applause and credit for that, because he's done an outstanding job.
All right, Dennis.
Yeah, no, it's good. We have a good crew. I can't take all the credit. Those guys that are out there every day doing it, so I know I drive them crazy with my expectations, but they have high expectations too, what the town wants, and they take a lot of pride in it. So before they pull out from the fields, they really do get a kick out of making it look good, and in the aftermath. So I'm sure they'll appreciate it too.
As someone whose Thanksgiving was deeply affected by the turf,
Yeah.
because I was hosting the football coach for dinner during that winter, the crazy snow we got. I know how hard you worked on that to try to come up with a
Yeah, we
solution. The
did. I
first
mean-
year we had turf.
And we did, and we had, you know, we got struck with that second storm.
Yes.
So obviously, you know, we moved on and the kids got to play. I think it wasn't the
Absolutely.
ideal, but.
You made it work.
We did make it work. We tried. Everybody was out there. We had a lot of fun that first day clearing it with all the kids out there. There was 1 million of them. And it was fun, but, we got one of them cleared now too, so. hopefully this-
Landrigan, right?
Landrigan's cleared right
Excellent.
now, they're all up there practicing, and that's ready for game, so it'll get something moving. Hopefully, everything will melt out soon, and we'll get the season started.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chairman,
Yeah.
before he leaves, two things. First of all, little-known facts about Mr. Fazio. One of them, he could do anybody I've ever heard of. I think your best one is of Peter Melanson. I've got to say, you can do Peter Melanson perfectly. But I
He's done
think-
everybody here, too.
Yeah, I'm sure he has, but we'll let that go.
Yeah, well-
I would like to say that Dennis, even at the end of a very busy day, always looks immaculate, like
Yeah.
he just stepped out of the shower. And he never looks dirty, but I know he's out there working and everything. He's very clean, he's very neat, much as he is tonight. But the areas that you take care of reflect that. You're very neat, everything's very precise and very neat and done and manicured. And I think you do a fabulous job.
Yeah, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, I'm sorry, Pat.
Yeah, I want to echo that too. And Dennis, Dennis does so much more than just field turf. And, I've been around, sports and football and soccer and so forth for the last 20 years around town. And you do a fantastic job. You and your whole team and around the lake, the place is pristine all summer long. Congratulations. It's about time somebody recognized you. It was
Thank
just
you.
a matter of time.
I think this award too now is, it's not about just being in charge of one particular field, which some managers get it, doing an outstanding job. They do realize now on a municipal level that we're doing everything.
Yeah.
It's common areas and sports
Yeah.
fields, so it's trying to find a happy balance for everybody, so.
Great job.
Yes.
I want to thank Dennis, because when I was working as chairman of the World War II Memorial, Dennis did so much to help us. He was really tremendous. He kept those grounds. Every time we needed help, he was there for us. I don't think sometimes the people didn't realize how much he did do for us. As far as neat, people think I'm neat about my car. He's worse about his truck. But one of the things, we had a tree on the World War II Memorial that we hated. And I couldn't get him to take it down. No, it's a beautiful tree. But God took care of it. The tree came down.
We all thought you did something.
We had you on film, Phyllis,
But
actually.
but I gotta tell you, Dennis has worked really hard, and he certainly deserves this. And I really thank him for everything that he did to
You're
help
welcome.
us.
No, it's fun. We have a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
All right.
Thank you so much,
Yep.
Dennis.
Great job.
Thank you.
I'd like to now ask the folks from National Grid to come up for their presentation. And if you could introduce yourselves.
Sure.
All right, so good evening. Thank you, everyone, for having us here tonight. I'm Brian Hudak. I'm a project manager from National Grid. And
Beverly Schultz, project manager for Eversource. It's a combined project from Woburn to Wakefield.
we have a couple other people from the team in the audience here as well. So we have Danielle and Catherine that are here, and also Sean, Pete, sorry, I'm not going to get it wrong, from our outreach group also. And so let's get right into it. I believe I have the show queued up back behind me on the screen as well. You can click whenever you want. Oh, perfect. Okay, so let's move ahead. You guys are right. Great. So we're here tonight to discuss a 345 kV underground project, the Woburn to Wakefield underground project. And I really want to start with what we're here for tonight, and that's to continue a process open and two-way communication. This is a joint project by National Grid and Eversource. But one of the critical aspects of this project is that we have some good communication with all the towns that we're involved with, including Wakefield. And so that's why we're here this evening. We really want to hear your feedback about this project. We also want to get your recommendations in terms of stakeholders, town departments, other people that we should be communicating with, and ultimately your participation is going to be critical to the success of this project. So that's really where I want to kind of start, and it'll be a recurring theme of our presentation. So we'll go ahead. So why is this project needed? The transmission system is overseen by an independent system operator. It's actually called the ISO. That is in charge of ensuring the reliability of the electric transmission grid in New England. And so periodically they'll perform studies to see that based on how load has changed over time and is projected to change, and also the existing conditions of the assets of the grid to make that could possibly take place. And so they did a study that encompassed the greater Boston metro area, northern Massachusetts, and a little bit of southern New Hampshire. And what they found in this 2008 study was that there were potential overloads on the transmission lines without action being taken based on the projected growth and the existing conditions of the transmission assets that were in the area. And so without correction, these could lead to deficiencies and problems with the transmission system that require immediate attention. So National Grid and Eversource have proposed a $520 million solution, combined solution to address these transmission deficiencies that are going to result in a large investment in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. And so you see here on the screen that the main components of the project, moving from top to bottom. The solid line is a new overhead 345 line going from Tewksbury, Massachusetts up to Londonderry, New Hampshire. And then there are the two dotted lines are cables that are going from Woburn, one going from Woburn here to Wakefield, and one going from Woburn down to the Everett substation, or Messick substation in Everett. So we're really here tonight to talk about the Woburn to Wakefield 345 underground project. So we have again a summary here of all the towns that are involved. So Woburn to Mystic will come south from Woburn, going eventually to the Mystic substation Everett. Woburn to Wakefield is going to be a new 345 underground line that's going to go from Woburn through Winchester, Stoneham, and into Wakefield, terminating at the Wakefield substation. So before we get further into the project details itself, just wanted to emphasize a point as far as transmission versus distribution. So when we're talking about electricity and its generation and how it gets to your homes or this building tonight, it starts at a generating facility, and from there it's going to be converted to a transmission voltage. A higher voltage that's going to allow bulk transmission of large quantities of energy over large distances. So that's like the backbone of the highway, the electric grid. So at locations, at substations, the distribution or the transmission system will be tapped off, and at the substation, the voltage will be converted to a distribution lower voltage that allows for local distribution of the electricity to your homes and businesses and those services. So the project and the solution as a whole is designed to correct or to ensure the reliability of the transmission system as a whole. So this bulk transmission system, the highway, if you will, of the grid. It's not designed to correct local distribution issues. All right, so talking about the Woburn to Wakefield project itself, 145 kilovolt underground transmission line. It will connect an Eversource substation in Woburn to the National Grid substation in Wakefield. It's about 8 miles long as currently constituted. The longest portion is in Wakefield, though it's not the majority, so it's a little under 3.5 miles will be located in Wakefield as currently planned. There will also be improvements to the substations at both Woburn and Wakefield that are currently planned. So for Wakefield, it would be within the existing fence line at the Wakefield substation. And the overall project is currently valued at $107 million of total investment. So next slide, we can look, and it's going to be kind of hard to tell. It might be better if we direct maybe more towards the focus here. Stand up. Kind of see a little better here. We have a board, and then I think we have the next slide also is more of a local map, I think. So picking up the routes that are potentially going to be going on over the project area. So as you see here to the left-hand side. Oh, thank you. Much better. Okay. So the route we're going to pick up here is showing Stoneham here on the left-hand side. And we have a main primary route that's shown in a gold here that's going up Elm Street as it becomes Albion Street. So the primary route here will go up Elm from Stoneham into Wakefield, a short distance on Albion, before we turn off for the primary route onto Broadway. And the current plan is with this primary route is that we would intersect with an inactive railroad line that is in the vicinity of Main Street, and that will follow that north to Salem Street, where we proceed east again to Salem, along Salem, eventually proceeding south on Montrose Avenue to the Wakefield Junction substation, as you see over here. So this, in the goal, and the primary preferred route. Along with that, there are some variations that we've included at certain points where if circumstances arise, we might find that to be the more viable option, while it's not currently preferred at this time. So one of those is going up Albion Street, North Avenue to West Water Street. Also going up New Salem Street rather than going the distance on the inactive railroad right-of-way. But really, I just want to kind of focus on this route here because that's ultimately the preferred route. We've also investigated some routes that are further south in Wakefield to get to the substation. These are what we would consider a notice alternative, and what that means is that in our scoring and our evaluation, we do not consider that route to be the preferred route, but by citing and permitting procedures, we have to notice an alternative that is distinct from the preferred route, and so we've also gone through on this route here and mapped out this route proceeding a little further south from our preferred route here. So that's generally the overall routing. Like I said, the main route, again, just to emphasize, is this gold line heading up more towards the middle of Wakefield, heading towards Montrose Avenue from the north side.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
you taking questions now, or are you done? You're not done, I imagine.
I still have some more, but if you prefer to ask questions
Why don't you
now.
finish up and then we'll ask.
Okay. All right, great. So just talking the specifics about this preferred route. As I mentioned in an earlier slide, a little under 3.5 miles would be located in Wakefield. The snippet is on the inactive railroad bed, like I said. I think you can see on there the blue section that's highlighted, so it's yellow surrounded by blue. So that's a pretty significant portion of the route right now that would be off the street in an inactive rail bed. The work within the fence line, or the work at Wakefield Junction would be within the fence line at that substation. And overall, you know, the portion of the project for Wakefield, we ultimately estimate at just a little under $53 million of total investment. So what that would mean is that after the assets were placed in service, that first year, 2019, after the line was in service, that would mean about $1.6 million in annual incremental tax revenue to the town of Wakefield. So 5 years with depreciation, that would be $7.5 million for the town of Wakefield overall. So when you put all those things together, you know, a reliability project that's going to benefit the area, all of New England's transmission system, minimal impact given how we can site a lot of this in an inactive railroad right-of-way, and a pretty large local investment. You know, it seems like it's a very win-win project, I think, for the town of Wakefield. So we're going to continue to closely coordinate with both the town and Wakefield Municipal Gas and Light to make sure that, you know, as we go forward with our plans and construction phases, that we're really keeping that communication at the level that it should be. So along those lines, just wanted to highlight some of the public events that we have upcoming. Obviously here this evening, we'll have another Board of Selectmen presentation in Stoneham tomorrow, and Winchester in April. And then towards the end of April, we'll have a series of open houses for all the towns on the route. So currently, the Wakefield Public Open House is scheduled for April 30th. And this is all in support of an EFSB filing with the Massachusetts Siting Board in the second quarter of 2015. We're currently planning to go to construction in mid-2017 and have the project team. So where we go from here, again, this is a part of an ongoing process to get feedback on the project as we're going forward. We'll have the open house to further gather input, so that's going to be more of a Tray-Cell show where we're going to have team members and subject matter experts available at various locations. So for that period, anyone that's interested can come in and get specific questions answered by the technical experts. We'll file with the Energy Facility Siting Board, and during that process, there will be public hearings, and finally reaching a decision by the Siting Board to move forward with the project. Okay, so in terms of siting and permitting, this project will go through a number of federal, state, and local permits. At the federal level, will be a general construction permit. At the state level, as I mentioned, the Massachusetts Energy Facility Siting Board. So we're currently investigating the need for the Massachusetts Environmental Protection Act environmental notification, utility-related abatement measure, Mass DOT access permits from the MBTA also. We need a rail crossing permit. We'll need A&M permits from the MWRA for underground water and sewer assets, and the MHC will be notified also. At the local level, we expect to go to the Conservation Commissions and Board of Selectmen for grants of location and street opening permits from the municipal agencies. So again, I started with this presentation concerning the need for communication and that importance to us, and I'll kind of continue on that theme as I'm wrapping up here. It's very important to us that we get feedback from the community and any recommendations that you think are relevant as we go forward with this project. We have a number of venues beyond this meeting tonight where people can reach out to us. We have a 1-800 number. We will be doing door-to-door outreach as well in support of this project. And the goal is to make sure that everyone has a chance to provide that feedback with us so that we can have that communication going forward. So I think the last couple slides, we have just showing our landing page that we have for the overall solution, as well as the contact number, and then our contact information as well. So again, our hope is that this is just another step in an ongoing process for communication with the town of Wakefield on this project, and we certainly look forward to your feedback, and thank you for your time this evening. I'll take questions at this point. Thank you.
Steve would like to say a few things before.
Just a couple of things where we've been. The team here from National Grid and Eversource, I think we've had 2 or 3 meetings, Rick Stinson, with DPW, Gas and Light Department, Water Division, Concom. Really, everyone has been in the room to talk about this. The using of the rail bed was something that the DPW brought up. That's a project that this town has talked about for a long time. And they're going down for the rail to trail. They're going down the rail bed and then paving over it.
Oh, that was my
That
question.
gives us
That was my
about a
question.
third of that done. I tried to push them all the way to Lowell Street, but it was tough to get them to Salem. But they've been very good to work with, and they've been working closely with Rick Stinson and Peter Dion with the MLD. So this is, again, in the beginning stages. There's a lot of hoops to go through, but we wanted you to get it early on. They wanted you to see it early on, and to have some open houses to where the community can come that really are effective. They're actually noticing people directly that are affected by this, just like you would when you went to the Board of Appeals or something. You're notifying abutters to come in. So just wanted to give that little background before. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I had a couple of questions to you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'm very, very concerned, and I hope it will continue, that it's Rick and his department is included in this. I don't want one hand not doing well. So, Rick, I know you'll be right in there. So,
Yeah, if I can, what we'll do is to bring back to you at some point, could be very shortly or a little longer term, is a list of what requirements we would have so that they're included when you do the grant of the permit and stuff.
right, thank you. My second comment and question would be, I'm assuming that all municipalities must agree before any of this can be done, obviously. She can't, Woburn's gonna have to agree, Stoneham and Winchester, everybody's gonna have to be on the same page.
Correct,
assuming that.
for street opening permits.
Right. Now, my last question has to do with money. I'm assuming that the money, that we would get the 7.5 over 5 years, or whatever it was, it's off the board, doesn't matter. Is that prorated because of the number of miles of each community? Does Woburn get more because you're kicking off there? Should we get more because you're?
No, so it's two things that money comes from. The first is for the substation improvements at Wakefield substation, and that's irregardless of the length or location of the underground cable. And then the second part is just based on mileage. So
It's prorated on mileage, I
Correct.
understand that. So Woburn's getting a kick because you're starting off there, I would assume.
yes,
I'm from Woburn, so I've got to keep them in mind.
Yes.
And now I live in Wakefield the past 45 years, so I'm hoping that Wakefield would get an extra boost too, because you have to end somewhere.
So so just to clarify, the $1.6 million was for Wakefield only. So the other towns.
No, I know that, and it's prorated, that was my question.
It's based on length
Right.
and the improvements made at the two substations.
Right. And I guess my last question is, will there be a tax, I'm gonna say excise tax for lack of a better word to use, on the equipment that you will be running, even though it's, this community will get, what is the premise for our getting the 1.7 million a year?
It's based on property taxes. So it is
Okay.
an asset
All right.
that's subject to property
All right.
tax.
That's all I want to know. So it is a property tax thing. All right. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Continuing that discussion on tax revenue, Steve, I imagine there's gonna be more current flowing
So
than before.
So the solution as a whole is designed to strengthen the transmission grid. In this case, there is no direct connection between Woburn and Wakefield, so this would provide a new connection for power to be transmitted between those two substations.
So I assume there'll be more current flowing.
Yes, given there is nothing, no connection right now, yes.
So Steve, I think we would need to reassess. We reassessed when we allowed them to make the connection from one substation to the power grid.
When they built that substation, yeah.
Yeah, and we reassessed. It made a significant change in our taxes. I would expect the same thing to happen
I think so.
at the end of this, which I'll just let the public know. I think that made a difference of $2 million
I think that was about 1.8, 1.7.
per year.
Per year, every year, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is gonna equal that, but that was a significant, it was a good job done by the assessor's office.
Well, I think their estimate right here was 1.6.
Yeah, for first year.
1.6 a year.
That was the depreciation, but was that the
That
increased
was the
tax
tax,
revenue?
that was the increase in tax revenue, 1.6.
I'll take that.
Not bad.
As far as the rail bed, Al Turco's ears are ringing, I'm sure, with the rail to trail, but so you're gonna pave from where you start, so I assume that would happen, the paving would start at the junction, and that's where you're picking up, but at the end of Broadway?
We
Yeah.
actually don't have a plan to pave. We have to have, however, we do expect that we would be working with you on that project as part of our mitigation package. So we don't have a requirement to pave, but we do need access. So we
We'll be working on that.
create a
Yeah.
a
Yeah, because there'll be
bed.
manholes, I imagine,
Because the Mass
jacking.
DOT, that's a Mass DOT project. So this would be helpful in that.
Okay. Okay. And so everything, every piece of this is underground, other than reaching the substation and emerging?
That's correct.
Within their fence line?
That's correct, yeah, so the underground cable would enter the fence line at Wakefield substation, and then it would merge to an overhead takeaway structure inside the fence.
So you'll be digging jacking pits, I imagine, and along the way, and manholes and?
Right, so the typical process would be, it would be a trenching process where, it'd start by, and then excavating out a trench, then to install a duct bank, and then backfilling, and then repaving afterwards.
Just a couple of quick questions on the construction side of this. How big is the trench roughly?
The trench is 4 feet, I think 4 feet wide, and then I can't remember how deep.
5 feet deep.
Yeah, it's about 5 feet deep, yeah.
5 feet deep, 4 feet wide? Okay.
And then there are large manholes, 8 feet by 30,
And those will be staggered throughout the entire length,
about every 15 to 1,700 feet,
and that would be just for access and upkeep of the system,
and splicing the cable.
splicing the cables as well. So as you're going in, I think Steve and I talked about this when I saw this, as you're going along, the road improvements will occur to put things back to normal?
Yeah, that's correct. As part of the process.
And that would be
paving.
something that you and the town administrator would work together with you and come back with, to us, okay, no, that's fine.
I think those were some of the conditions that Rick was talking about.
And I'm concerned as well, too, with what the condition will be after the fact, so.
Typically, there's a temporary trench immediately after, and then when the path is complete, we come back and do the restorative permanent paving, whether that be that width or a different width based on how recently you've done repaving in the area.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Discussion?
Thanks for coming.
Do we
Thank
have
you.
the April 30th date? Is that firm? So
We
that
do.
is firm at the Galvin Middle School Library, cafeteria.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you very much.
So I'll just leave here too. We have some takeaways. If you're welcome, I'll just leave them here if you want to have everything, the information.
So on your site as well, too? The actual map?
I'm sorry?
Is that on the website as well?
That will be on the website. We're currently building out the website.
Okay.
So it will be available though, and it'll also be available in all of the collateral that we have for the open house. And we'll have the town specific information so that people will be able to see that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We welcome DPW to discuss their budget now.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
You have received the budget presentation before you. You also have a cover memo, which I tried to address many of the items in the budget, the changes. And with that, I'll start with the tax supported section.
Absolutely.
Tax supported section covers all 8 divisions out of the 10. And with the it does not cover water and sewer, which we'll talk about afterwards. In this budget, the request, first of all, is $4,959,000. The key changes in this budget, staffing, we are requesting 3 additional staff. As you remember, and I mention every year, we were at 79 people in 2004. We are currently at 70 people. Since that time, we've taken on numerous additional duties. And so that 70 is about 11.39% reduction from where we were. And even with the 73 that this budget would bring that to, this is still substantially below what is needed to ensure the safety of staff, which I'll talk about, and also meet the demands of the town that are increasing tremendously the last 2 years, and look to increase again. One of the things that I wanted to point out is that when you factor in vacations, and most of my staff is at maximum, they've been here quite a while, we actually lose about 3.25 bodies per year because of vacations and other time that they accrue. One of the big issues, and you'll see that when we talk about snow and ice, this winter was obviously an extreme one. We had people that worked 49 out of 56 hours, and one that actually worked 57 out of 63. It is extremely unsafe both for residents and also staff. Fortunately, we have not had any accidents ourselves from that. But I can assure you the cost of one would be much more than what 3 additional staff is going to cost in here. But it's also, so it's going to let us rotate during extreme weather events, but it's also going to help us meet the demands that are being placed on us, which have become very difficult to meet. Contractual services is up $13,905. After this winter, I could have probably increased it about $200,000, but we're going to try to work within the funds that we have. We've also received $102,000 for emergency roadway repair from the state. That does have to be spent by June 30th, so that will be utilized by that date. Some of the key highlights, the major increases were fleet equipment maintenance of $5,000, elevator maintenance of $4,000, and fence repair of $2,000. Some of the positives, electricity and natural gas decreased $3,730. Vehicle fuel or vehicle allowance decreased $1,500, and highway equipment rental decreased $4,500. The energy budgets in the public works budget are well-structured, well-funded, so we have they're very good. In the materials and supplies accounts, that is a decrease of $13,513. So there's actually a wash between purchase of services and materials and supplies. The big decrease there is in fuel cost for vehicles, decreased that $24,213. And as you know, we use our 5-year average for that, but the fuel cost is looked at to stay down this coming year, so we should be in good shape with that. There were miscellaneous minor changes to various line items of $9,700, but you get that net decrease of $13,000. And with that, any questions you have?
I just have a comment, thank you, Madam Chairman. Every year I say to Steve, privately as well as at the meeting, that we have so many more places to take care of them in a better fashion. We're upgrading everything around this community, and I've always said, and I said it to him, I think a couple of weeks ago, I said, we need more people on the DPW to keep up with it. You can't have something brand new and then not maintain it, because then you're throwing good money after bad. So I'm very pleased to hear that there's been an increase in the staff. I know we're still down, I'm well aware of that, but it's a start, and I'm very, and I'd also like to compliment you on this horrendous winter and how you dealt with it, you and your staff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just, again, comment, Rick, I think everybody's an expert when it comes to the DPW. Everybody's got a comment, everybody's got a suggestion, myself included. And you know, you and I are in similar industries, so, but I've seen some of the improvements that Betsy's talking about around the lake. You did a lot of repaving around town. You've done a lot of, you know, replacing sidewalks, replacing trees, you know, staying on top of things. And then we got absolutely hammered with snow this year. And I have people on my street who commented. A couple who lives next to us is from Melrose, through Saugus, you know, Woburn, Melrose. And he said that not even close, Wakefield has the best snow removal. So, you know, hats off, and I agree. I think having a few more bodies will definitely help us achieve, you know, keeping the town, keeping all of our infrastructure where it needs to be, so.
Do you want a motion?
Motion?
Do you want a motion for the budget?
Absolutely. Is there a motion to approve the Department of Public Works budget in the amount of $4,424,959?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Pat, second by Betsy. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is the next one snow and ice?
Snow and ice, yes.
And I have to apologize, I have with me Mike Collins, my town engineer, and,
All right.
who will answer any questions also that you may. The snow and ice budget, if you remember last year, I came in and asked for $1,138,000 of change. We appropriated $650,000, which was the plan, so it wasn't, we knew we were underfunded when we started. No one ever expected to see a winter like this. I went to Steve, I might have jinxed us, and said, we're gonna have some extra money. I said this in January, and there's some snow equipment that we have not been able to buy, and it would be good to do that, and then things kind of exploded and went downhill.
You're to
So
blame.
I will not do that again in the future.
Governor Baker's blaming everything on you,
Everything, yeah.
on you, by the way.
This realistic budget for an average winter, and an average winter, the last 5 years has been 62 inches of snow, an average snowfall. And in the past, it's been 52 inches. Average winter, and we use the same number of events in each budget, same number of plowables, same number that are sand salt operations, is $1,168,000 and change. The request before you was for the request is the $1,168,000. The number that's put forth is $750,000. And if you looked at in the snow and ice section that I provided you, there's a chart in there in the beginning, which is very interesting, and it's not the budget part, it goes back a little bit. It shows the high impact snowstorms per decade. In the 50s, there were 4. In the 1960s, there were 10. 1970s, there were 4. The 80s had 5. The 90s had 5. The 2000s had 10. We're in 2010s, and we were already at 12, and we're only halfway through. It seems that the whole weather pattern is changing. And one of the things that we've been doing a lot of the past year is looking at not just the extreme snow events, but also the extreme rain events. We're having tornadoes around here now that we've never had before. That's a huge issue that we're constantly looking at. This year, we're up to 114 inches of snowfall. We had 92 inches in a 23-day period, which is unheard of. I mean, we had more in 23 days than we would in a whole season, which goes from November 15th to April 1st. And we have, event-wise, we're up to 26 events. So it's been a real, everybody, and hopefully, and God, I shouldn't say this, but I hope we don't see a April Fool's Day storm like we did back in the 90s with 24 inches of snow fell, so that would not make me happy. The one other thing that you should know is that everyone in the department works on snow and ice all during the winter. But at the same time, the water sewer staff is out there fixing water breaks while also plowing. We've had 10 breaks, which 6 of them have been patched. We have 4 more to do this week. They're out patching roads, which has been very difficult this year. Burials, we had 29 burials since January 26th that we had to do, which were real difficult because they had a lot of just trying to find grave, then digging through the frost and stuff. We cleared roofs, which we don't normally do, at a huge cost. In Landrigan Field, we've cleared, and we continue with just about everything else that we're trying to do. So it's been a difficult winter, but I have to say, the staff has done an unbelievable job. Our contractors have done an unbelievable job, and I can't praise them enough for the work they did.
Yes, Steve.
Rick, first of all, let me commend you on a great job this winter, and all the people that work at the DPW for their hard work, keeping the streets the way they did and keeping us safe. So, Rick, can you tell us what the average cost has been for this budget, say for the past 3 or 4 years, 5 years,
Yeah,
roughly,
If you look.
what we've been paying.
There's a chart in there, behind that chart that that does, and if you look in the, it says snow and ice history. Last year, we expended $953,000 and change. 2013, we was $799,000 and change. 2012, we had a year that I love, $307,000. We only had 18 inches of snow, I believe. 2011, we were $1,053,000. And 2010 was 520, 2009 was 922,000.
It's all over the place.
It's all
Yeah.
over the place.
Yeah.
You know, every winter's different, every storm's different. This is probably the worst winter, not in the amount of snow. We've had more snow. We had 127 inches in the 95, 96. However, it started in November and it ended in April.
Right.
So it had time to melt and you had time to move it. This just hasn't gone anywhere, so.
Those years, I mean, I know, if you remember that in 2009, all we budgeted for snow and ice was $293,000. And that had been the same for a long time, and before that, it was $250,000. And the only reason why it moved to 293 in 2000, it was because we started doing some stuff at the schools. But we've been systematically moving that up. And, you know, Rick is right, we're gonna get to that million someday, but we're moving there every year. There's a lot of other needs in the budget, so moving that to 750,000 is another step in the right direction. And we'll get, you know, a few more years, we'll be probably where we should be, I hope, unless the climate does change,
Yeah.
which we're worried about.
Stephen, that money that doesn't get spent, does that go back into free cash?
That goes back in the free cash at the end of the year, yeah.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the amount, the budget number 30 in the amount of $750,000, which coupled with the last motion will bring the total DPW to $5,174,959, but this motion is $2,000.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. The sewer budget. Is that the next one?
Water enterprise?
budget. Okay. I gotta reverse these sections next year, that'll be easier for us. Water budget. The request is for, and there are some changes here, and I don't know if you received new sheets or not. The request is for $4,317,077.
Yes.
Okay, you have those sheets?
We do
Okay,
have that.
Good. The changes that changed those sheets were related to the benefits section. We got the final number for group insurance and for Medicare. So those are there now. Salaries have increased for contractual steps and grades. This budget carried the 27th payroll in it. We've eliminated that from last year. And we have one additional staff person in this budget for water treatment plant operator. And I'll explain to that when I get into the MWRA section. Well, I'll do it now. The goal of the position is to reduce our MWRA cost. If you look at the MWRA line item, that has increased $242,832. I think that will go down a little bit. I can't say how much it'll go down, but I think that will go down. We can pump out of Crystal Lake 211 million gallons by our permit. This year, we hit about 132 million, occasionally 160 million in certain years. All depends on how much, and when I say year, I mean calendar year, so it was 2014. It depends on how much snowfall, because that operator's also out doing snow plowing and working on snow events and other water breaks. With that, we only have one licensed operator, so we generally pump from 5 or 6 in the morning till about 5 at night. We want to boost that up, and the cost of that salary, which is about $53,000, we can substantially reduce the $242,832. So when we go into next year's budget, we would see a huge reduction in that. And that's the goal of that position. The 211 million gallons represents about 1/3 of our water consumption. Someone might ask, what if we went to increase our withdrawal limit? Everything that's happening in the water industry, if we tried that, we'd probably spend $2, $3, $4 million. And at the end of the day, we would have spent $2, $3, $4 million and have nothing at the end. On the contractual services, that's up $11,515, or about 3.6%. There is a minor increase in electric and natural gas of $3,715. Minor increase in postage of $1,125 for water billing. And telephone is up $6,500. This will be a one-time increase. We'll start to see that go down in the next budget. We're converting our stations to getting off them. We're going on to internet. So we'll be seeing that cost come down. But while we're doing the changeover, we have that one-time cost increase. And it relates to all the alarm lines at the stations. Materials and supplies is up $3,886, or 1.7%. Vehicle fuel here is down $6,114. Patching is up $4,000, and pipes and fittings is up $5,000. Those two items relate to water breaks and repairs that we have to do in the system. The maturing debt has decreased $3,550.
Motion to approve the water budget as, water division budget as presented by the DPW.
Second.
Moved by Pat, second by Tiz. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Rick.
The sewer budget, the request is $7,246,937. And that's also a revised number from what you had before, because those same two items, group insurance and Medicare, the actual numbers are in here now. Salaries have decreased $7,386. We've adjusted for step increases and grades and eliminated 27 payroll. The MWRA assessment, I'm glad to say, is only up $20,438 here, so that's a real positive. It hasn't all suicide. Materials and supplies budget is properly funded. There's no real change there. And it actually decreased $6,019 due to the adjustment in vehicle fuel. And maturing debt has increased $21,031. That's related to our loan grant program with the MWRA, where we receive a 45% grant, and we pay back 55% for II work, and we don't pay any interest. So that's a good deal. Generally, we try to keep that the same. This will go up one time, and then next year it'll start to drop out again. And this budget is up less than 0.5% overall.
Is there a motion to approve the budget 32 sewer enterprise in the amount of $7,246,937?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam Chair, if I may, Rick,
Yes.
when we come around to talk about the water rates again, would you consider the second meters again, that
Sure.
discussion?
Yep, yep.
I think people are being penalized. That's been on the table for a long time, and I think people are being penalized who invested money in their properties, and they're doing the right thing by not overcharging the sewer system, and they're not getting the credit for it. it's the right thing to do, the green thing to do. I think we should reconsider it.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. And
You're stuck with me on health
I'm
insurance.
stuck with you, and then we go back to Rick.
You're stuck with me on health insurance, I'll go back to
Rick.
Rick. The group health insurance budget, which you have, I think has actually been a success story over the last number of years since this board moved to the GIC, and I'm requesting an increase in the budget of $406,983. This is all because the GIC rate has gone up an average about 5%. We're increasing our budget a little bit over 3%, because we think we're gonna migrate people to lower cost plans, and that we also had a little bit of a cushion in this budget, so. Laurie Riley and Amy Forziati do a great job with managing this with our town employees. We are really budgeting in this budget kind of where we were in fiscal year 10 on the insurance budget. So this has not gone up, maybe 0.006% in the last 4 years cumulatively. And we are funding our OPEB liability, our other post-employment benefit liability, which very few other towns are doing. We have $6 million in the OPEB account right now, included in this budget for OPEB, up around 7.8. And when I talk to other cities and towns, our managers, our mayors, no one's doing this. This is something they're gonna have to do shortly. It's like funding our pension and what have you. We're ahead of the curve on that, and I thank the board for doing that. So when you look at this budget, it's really not a real mystery. We take the a number of plans that we have. We map them out on the GIC grid, and then we add it up, so they do a great job. I think that we'll continue to return in this budget, as we have the last few years, money to the town, to answer what Selectman Dotto said before, the same thing here. Anything we save on this by moving people to lower rate plans will come back to the town. So the amount of this is $11 million. $11,000 would be great. $11,021,260.
So
And I'm
moved.
open for questions.
Second.
And just,
Just have a quick question.
Yeah.
Steve, what was, before we went into the GIC, can you just give the public an idea of what the percentage increase was year?
Oh, we
year
were
to year?
getting increases, and we didn't know this early. 12%, 16%. I think one year it was like 16.8%, and it came over on the eve of town meeting. We get a fax from Maya, from Blue Cross.
And Steve, what would you estimate that we've saved since we
Oh.
implemented this in dollars?
I would say we have saved over the last few years probably $10 million, if that, and maybe more. And we're funding OPEB,
It's unbelievable.
so it's probably 16 million. I mean, it's a great success story, probably 3 million a
Congratulations.
year. It's a
Congratulations.
great job by the board. The board took a tough boat. I remember making you guys come in here over the 4th of July to meet on this. You weren't too happy, but see?
I forgot all about that.
You forgot all about that.
So that was a motion on it?
just
Oops.
briefly, I was talking to some of our butters on OPEB. They've done nothing.
Yeah,
They haven't put
Right.
anything in, and they're gonna be hit with
right.
multiple $1 million.
Right.
So they were envious of what we've done thoughtfully.
Yeah. And what we do is that we do charge back, and Rick talked about this in the DPW budget, that if you work for the water department, it's included in the water department, sewer department included in that. The light department, we handle theirs, that gets charged back to them, so it is a real model that handles all of that. So it's a really good job by what our staff does here. Luckily, Mayor Dolan is a good friend of ours, and he's on the GIC board, so I get a call from him right after the meetings, and I gotta tell you, the woman that runs GIC, her name is Dolores Mitchell, and she is well into her 80s, and she goes to the providers and gets them to lower their costs. She's unbelievable, a dynamo, and I told her at a meeting in Melrose, I told her she was my hero because of what she's done with this. So really is, it really is a kind of a good budget to breathe. I'm not dying like I was a few years ago when I'd come in with a 12 or 13% increase with nothing to do.
So I believe the motion is on the table. All in favor?
Aye.
And I do, before we go to the next one, I do want to echo the kudos to Rick. You know, when my phone is buzzing at 5:30 in the morning, I know it's Rick telling me that it's snowing outside, so.
Do that on
He
purpose.
does it on purpose. Or at 12:30 at night, Steve, it's snowing, I hate that. But they did do a great job, and I gotta say, I talked to a lot of the workers that did work many, many hours, and they were tired, but they, you know, Rick makes sure they get rest, and they go back out, and they did a fine job, so I do appreciate it.
All right, moving on to warrant. Sure.
Article 9, maybe,
We're gonna skip to Mr. Majorison, Rick, if that's okay?
Sure.
So, Sean, that's Article 9. Yeah, 'cause Rick has a microphone.
yeah,
Yeah.
Rick is gonna be here the rest of the night,
Yeah.
make no mistake.
Good evening.
Hi, Sean, how are you? Do you have a presentation, or do we go article by article?
I thought I would spare a tree this year, because I usually come in and hand out presentations, and I thought, you know, they already have the information in front of them, so I'm gonna try and, if you can turn to, they have the book?
They don't have the book, but they have the article.
If you turn to the, if you have the article in front of you, presentation relates directly, basically will relate directly to the categories.
Okay,
You don't have it? So, this year's capital outlay, as you've read, totals $1,999,967, of which we recommend spending $662,898 on prior leases, which we're required to do. $461,000 be spent on fleet items. $645,000 be spent on facilities requests and upgrades. $231,069 be spent on roads, parks, and miscellaneous, as well as $150,925 be spent on an IT lease. In addition, it's recommended that $339,250 be spent on the water and sewer outlay this year, next year. Regards to prior leases, as I mentioned, total of $662,898 are recommended. And prior leases, just to remind you folks, it's range from leases on expensive DPW trucks and vehicles, the school bus, I believe, last year, and the 5-year yearly lease IT items, typically on a 5-year lease. That's the cycle of IT items, typically 5 years. The fleet category, it's a total of $461,000, and the fleet requests this year include 2 new police cruisers and replacing existing, and just to refresh your memory again a little, typically what we do is 3 cruisers one year, 2 the next, and rotate through. They get, I've seen, not firsthand, but I've seen where they get hammered, let's put it that way, they get used so much. Another item, replacement of the police special operations vehicle that's used as a mobile command. Replacement of the senior center handicap passenger bus, which has been on the ticket for a couple of years. Replacement of several DPW vehicles, including a 21-year-old Ford van, 17-year-old 1-ton dump truck with a plow, and a backhoe loader that's used for major snow and ice storms. And one thing I want to make sure everyone understands, because I know it's always with capital planning, it's always difficult in terms of, do you go with the recommendations, or you try and look at the bigger picture for other vehicles? And we're still replacing 21-year-old vehicles, just as a note. And we've been, over the years, we've, thanks to Steve, we've been able to increase year by year, and $2 million this year. We're still, in effect, digging out a little bit of a hole. When we're replacing 21 and 17-year-old vehicles, that's a very old vehicle. We've got more than the use out of it. For facilities, we're replacing a boiler and dampers at the Doyle School. Currently the backup does not operate and needs to be replaced. I'm sorry. And this is really supporting the schools in their initiative to put the to open the door up to students. The second item is replacing 3 sets of exterior doors at different schools that are difficult to open and close securely. And at the Greenwood, we are continuing to replace the existing spine ceiling and replace tiles on the floor that are causing the tripping hazard. Obviously, you've got little kids running around and tiles chipping. It's not a good situation. Other projects include replacing part of the senior center slate roof, that's a multi-year project, and replacing perimeter lighting at the senior center as well. We're also recommending phase 2 of a 3-phase project to conduct masonry improvements at the library, the siding, and walkways. And the last highlight that I have is we're replacing the town hall boiler. Backup boiler cannot be replaced. I've put 3 together: roads. The miscellaneous requests include new safety mats at the high school gymnastics area, and those, I don't know if you recall, but a couple of years ago we did replace some mats in the gymnastics. This is actually safety mats. There's a difference, which I learned this year. This is a continuation. We're also recommending a continuation of the drainage system improvements, which it's replacing damaged drains and stream cleaning. That's something we're going to be doing on a yearly basis from the looks of things. Also recommend approximately $32,000 be spent for the fire department, which is matching grants for gear washing, extractor, and breathing equipment, as well as replacement of the radio comparator. You see that correct? Good, thank you. Also recommending $50,000 be spent on parking lot improvements at a number of different lots. In many cases, they haven't been repaved over 30 years. And last, replacement of the rubber playground surface on the west side of Dolbear. That's a safety concern. Just for those of you, I'm not sure, Dolbear, that's on the back side of the school. I've actually been there many times myself, having to pick up kids, and it is a serious, it's been a problem for a while, but we're going to replace the rubber playground surface. Information technology. 2 highlights of note: purchasing 2-way radios for each of the Wakefield Public Schools. And this is, I believe this sums it up well. Per Mass General Law, every school is to have 2-way communication device for communicating with emergency personnel during emergency situations for obvious reasons over the last few years. The committee is also recommending continuing support of the Wakefield School Technology Plan, which includes the purchase of 12 sets or 390 units of Google Chrome tablets, including carts and storage. And just for clarification or a little more detail, 4 of these sets will go to Dolbear, 2 for Greenwood, 4 for Woodville, and 2 at the Walton, so they're spread out fairly even. And this will help to supply the whole 3rd grade and all schools with this device. If you recall, last year we did the 4th grade. And last but not least, always seems to be last, water and sewer. The highlights of the water and sewer capital expenditures include replacement of the treatment plant processing equipment, which is phase 3, and phase 2 of a multi-phase program to replace hydrants. Any questions?
You know, this is just continuing our plan that we've done over the last few years. As you board may recall that we weren't putting anything in the capital for a year. We couldn't. I mean, there were issues. I think one year we put in like 200,000 or something, or maybe even less, way back when. So
It was 300. I think half of it was taken away.
Half was taken away. So we've broken it down. We get Rick and I work very closely with Sean on this. We probably get $6 million worth of requests. We have a plan that carries through all of our fleet, our roofs, our buildings, and what needs to be done. And then things crop up. So I'm very grateful to the Capital Planning Committee for going through this with us, for the department heads that come in and talk about this, and so we really cut this down to where we can, and I'm very grateful that we as a community can continue to put $2 million towards this every year, because if not, we're going to fall further behind, as we found out we did a long time ago. So this is an important part of our overall program, and it's not easy decisions to make, and some department heads aren't happy, but that's the way it goes.
I'm only gonna highlight one thing that I've highlighted probably every year that I've sat here. Drainage systems, it's 90,000. doesn't go too far. And you know that's very dear to me as far as keeping the water flowing throughout the entire town. Is there anything in long-term being planned for the bridge on my street in regards to clearing it in any way so that the water flow gets past my property?
The drainage study we've been working on, we hope to have this July completed. And we're actually gonna have a list within the next probably 2 weeks of some of the major areas and suggestions on what should be done. Then it'll go through pricing those out and what the cost is. All of these projects that are gonna be within that drainage study are hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more.
More, I understand.
One thing that I found out about the Saugus River, you go from the Mill River down to the Saugus River, it's very flat. The Saugus River, for partway down from the Wakefield line, is very flat. And we obviously have to work with Saugus to do some work on that section, that we can't just go in there and obviously do that ourselves. But it will require approvals from Conservation, DEP, maybe the Army Corps. It's not a short-term project, but we're getting to a point where we can make some recommendations to you on where to go, where to start, and make some progress on that.
So nothing in the near future that's going to change in that area?
Well, I'll know better once we get the study and we have some more information, so.
Thank you.
That's in the near future.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I
Yes.
may. And Rick, on that note, there's some people that, you voiced that Paul has around town that have the same issues, and I know that there's a gentleman, it's either on Gould Street or close by that area. The poor guy has to pump out, it starts, in the early springtime, about now, pumping out his basement, and I think we're actually allowing him, because of the hardship, to pump into the sewer system. If there's cases like this around town, is there a process for people to ask for help, or is there anything that we can do for these people? If it's something that's extreme that's happened over time. I understand, I get water in my basement too, and I pump it out. I bought a pump, and I pump it out myself. But there's some people who are in worse shape and may not have the means to do it, to do something, and if there's anything we can do to help.
Yeah, I think one of the, and we've been trying to get when I explain this, we've been trying to get our own house in order in terms of the sewer system.
Yeah.
The long-term approach is to, and we'd come back here to get your opinion and
Yeah.
input, because I think that's important. We want to get rid of all sump pumps. We want to have that water go to the outside ground or into the drainage system.
Yeah.
That's not a cheap cost for homeowners. However, there are communities that have done this in the past. They will pay a portion of that cost to make that changeover and connect that. So it would be a long-term program. It would take the most serious places first, but obviously needs buy-in from Board of Selectmen, but homeowners, because unless you're gonna pay for all the costs, I'm sure they're not, you're gonna have to talk to them and convince them on why it's better.
Yeah.
And one will reduce our sewer cost and make a better setup for them.
Okay. Sorry to veer off.
Oh, that's fine.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
One thing that I did want the board to know is that it's very hard to start with 6 million and get down to 2 million. It might not sound like it's that. And one thing that has happened this year in particular, specifically more around going back to the plowing, we had more requests pop up this year. Basically, when you're moving more snow, you're gonna cause more problems with the equipment. Things break down, and all of a sudden it goes from fix it to replace it. And also, one thing that I've noted over the last 2 or 3 years, now that we've had more money to spend, there are more each year that weren't in, all of a sudden they just appear. And we've gotta have it tomorrow, it's gotta be on this year's request. So there's a lot that we're juggling, just so that you know.
And I want to thank you for the list, Sean, and your committee, because clearly it's thoughtful, it's as fiscally responsible as we can be in moving the town forward. We need to spend money, but it's also quite a conservative budget, so I think it's a great job.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, absolutely.
Have you set priorities on which of these projects are gonna be done first, or how many, or are you planning on doing all of this that you've explained to us tonight?
These are projects basically based on, you mean such as the water cleaning, storm cleaning?
No, I'm talking about like the slate roof and the Greenwood School
Yeah,
and,
that's-
We will, once it's approved, then we'll begin to set priorities on what's gonna be done. We actually have a rotating a priority, because in the summertime, we focus on schools. We only have a 2-month window, and maybe 2 weeks. This year's shorter. So summer becomes schools, and then we'll work on, we get into the other buildings. School vacations, we go back to working on schools. So we have a rotating process. Can't do them all at once, but by the end of the year, our goal is to have them all done.
does this, maybe ask Town Administrator Mayo, does this have to be, this budget have to be approved at town meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
If I could just add one thing, if you can't tell, projects under the leadership of Rick. So anything that's in here, project-wise, is.
It seems like, I used to, many years ago, I was on the capital planning committee. It seems like it has grown, really grown, more projects, more projects that have to be done, you know, compared to what it was a few years ago. Does the capital planning committee also still, like when we would buy, lease, I guess what you call it, pay for it for so many years, and then it belongs to us? Are you still doing that with some of these
Absolutely.
projects?
We do with higher dollar items. We really try and put the lower dollar items into the budget so we don't have to have longer term lease. Typically, they're 3-year, for vehicles, typically 3 years. IT, meaning computers, servers, that type of thing. The reason we go 5 years, that's a typical lifespan of that particular equipment. And IT will have for the long haul that element, and even the, I shouldn't sell the vehicles short. If we have anything, if you get anything over 50,000, it starts to get into the, okay, should we lease or buy? Because there's a trade-off in general, meaning you're either gonna do something relative to a project, or there's something you have to give up if you're gonna pay for a vehicle outright.
Well, I hope if this project does pass at town, if this article does pass, that one of the first things they will do is take care of the Greenwood School. The other schools, I just don't think, myself personally, that they have been taken care of properly. I don't think they were taken care of right away. A lot of the work that has to be done should not have been gone that long. And the Greenwood School, you know, it's been a long time, and it's been neglected, and so I'm hoping that that's one of the first projects that will be taken care of if this article passes. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to, or have a motion made to approve the tax levy capital planning warrant article in the amount of $1,999,967.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The second capital planning article is a motion to improve the sewer capital planning warrant article in the amount of $166,625.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The third article, motion to approve the water capital planning warrant article in the amount of $172,625.
So moved.
Second is?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the last article for Mr. Majorison is the motion to approve the IT capital planning warrant article in the amount of $150,932. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
Who said 9:30?
You done?
We're not. We're not done.
We're not done. Getting closer to my date.
No, Rick's back on, there he is. So,
Warrant articles.
no,
No.
all right.
Wishful thinking.
I'm losing my place here.
Still a lot of discussion.
I'm missing a page. Sorry.
C, warrant
Skip the page, okay. Rick, first warrant article is eminent domain for dollars.
Yes, this is an annual article, in the event that we need to accept easements or takings for projects.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And my second article is the refuse recycling yard waste in the amount of $1,476,680, Rick.
Whoops, let me get that. Let's go around that way. Go around that way. Go around that way.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Excellent. So,
Everyone get one?
yep,
Yeah, okay. As was mentioned, the request is for $1,476,080. I gave you a breakdown of the line items that make up that budget as I do every year. Want to focus on the sheet that I gave you of the past 9 fiscal years. This year's budget, because of the change that the Board of Selectmen voted to make, which I think was very critical to controlling cost in refuse and recycling, is down from fiscal year 2014 of $135,877. And I use that year because in fiscal year 15, which we're in now, if you remember, we didn't factor in all of the cost items at that point. So it's more appropriate to look at those 2 years. This budget is also lower than the fiscal year 2007 budget, although not by much, is lower than the fiscal year 2007 budget. The recycling has, I don't know if I brought that with me or not. Recycling has increased 38%. Obviously, refuse tonnage is down. This budget also factors in that $135,000 savings, also includes the increases in the contracted cost for collection of recycling, collection of refuse, and the increase in the disposal fee. So that's a net increase, so there's no unseen cost there. Program has worked out very well, although through a difficult winter. I think next year everyone will be saying this is a piece of cake compared to the, it obviously has proposed challenges. We would have hoped for a better winter than this to implement this, but it is what it is, and I think it's working out good. And any feedback that you guys receive, please don't hesitate to get it to us, because we try to work with people and make adjustments and stuff. Okay, and I know one out there which we're looking at is whether we should go to every week recycling. It should, the reason that the rubbish collection worked was because we were reducing drivers from 6 to 3, in some cases, certain days, 7 to 3, or 2, many times 2. On the recycling end, it's a little different. We have one truck in town. To go to, if we went to every week, had a second truck in town, that would actually increase cost. Okay, so it wouldn't go up the full contract amount, but would be quite a bit that it would go up. So, but we are looking at that and seeing if there's a benefit and payback for that.
Any questions or comments?
I think that Phyllis did have a comment on the trash removal question.
Yes.
That we had talked about earlier, so.
I know, I'm going back to you again, Rick, about this problem. I know that, the reason we did this, the blue barrels and the trash collection, and is because a benefit to the town, okay? And I know I've had this discussion with you even this morning. The Board of Selectmen, I think this is important, especially if everybody's listening and hearing. We voted that anyone who has a property with 4 units, the trash is picked up, everything is handled, they have a barrel, but anybody with more than 4 units has to have their own trash taken care of or get a dumpster. Now, we have several people in town. Now, I know in some areas it lists as a 4-unit apartment, a 4-unit building. But in some of these buildings, there are 5 units. There are 5 units. They're listed. I mean, Mr. Mayo has them listed. And we have to send letters to those people. It has nothing to do with the zoning board. I talked to them, nothing. This is our rule. There is no more grandfather clause. Anybody that has more than 4 units in a complex, they have to have removal or they have to have a dumpster. And there are several houses, and what I'm asking you to do, which I know you will do with the permission of the board, to get the list of these people that they have barrels, they shouldn't be having them, and to send them a letter. I mean, we'll give them enough time. I know some of them, we've been picking up the trash because it has it listed as a 4-unit, and it's not a 4-unit. We have some listed that are 4 units, and there's 6 units in there. And these people have to be notified that they have to have their own trash removed or get a dumpster. And I think Mr. Mayo also has received
Yeah.
phone calls from
And
people
we're
that are
working.
complaining about this.
And if I can explain the uniqueness here. If you remember when we presented this back in a year ago, February, when you went to 5 units, it was legal status, okay? There is a difference between what the assessors have and what the legal status is. The legal status is on a list that we have. Everyone that was over 4 families on that legal status list received a letter, and we're not picking up trash there. There are a number, and I couldn't even guess or locate them all, how many that utilize their property for more than what the legal status is. And that is probably the big issue. They are legally a 4. Some people have crammed in 5 or 6 families, and to be able to find that information is practically impossible to get them all. I think it's because it's a huge issue throughout town. Okay?
Well, there is a list
It's a list of the
that
legal.
says there are 4.
Right, and that's the list we go by.
The list says
Right.
5 names in this complex, and you go there, and there's 5 families living there. I don't care if it says 4.
And I don't
It's
know,
5.
and I guess it comes back to this, and I'd ask
And
town council is opinion, I hate to put you on the spot, but if you have 5 names on the street list, that doesn't mean
No.
that one of those people isn't living with the other person. How do you figure all that out? Okay?
I think
do you
what
mean?
we
If
can
there's
do is
5
we can look at
names?
the assessments. The assessors may have it listed as a 5-unit building with different than that, so that's what we're working with. It gets pointed out to us, so we'll work with Rick and town council to make sure that all gets done.
I do know that for a fact that in one area, there's 5 names, they're 5 different families. In
I
another
think-
area, there's 6 names, there's 6 different people.
Right.
And the trash is being picked up, and it's not right.
And I think the board needs to vote whether to change from legal status to what it's being used to. Because that's the vote that was taken at the time, was legal status.
Which I think we can.
Just out of curiosity, which listing book are we talking about? The book that we get at Town Hall?
Well, there's the street listing book
Yeah.
that will also list families, but there's also how they're assessed, which assesses use.
Right, but the
So-
street listing book, if
Yeah, that's
man and
not.
if a man and
yeah.
a woman are living together, that's gonna be 2 different names.
That's not always
That's-
Right.
positive, but it
That's
often
not
will
the
give a
issue.
unit in the
The issue.
building, so we're really looking at the assessments. How is it used? There are, the assessor will say there are 5 distinct units or 6 distinct units, and it's illegal for.
Right.
It is a conundrum for us and a lot of, and a lot of issues, so that's what we're looking with. Maybe we should work with town council to make sure that we get that right.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I've been involved in litigation where we've sought to, in another community, we sought to punish a slumlord for packing families in illegally. It ultimately becomes a very difficult matter of proof. You can do it, but it's not at all straightforward. And a lot of these people, of course, have no incentive to be candid with the assessor.
Right.
Yeah, but these we already know.
Right.
These we know from the assessor. They've been out there and they have the units.
Yeah.
Through you, Madam Chair, wouldn't it make sense to be on the same page? We're almost following 2 sets of rules, are we not?
Right, but that does happen, that the assessors assess use, and then
Right.
there is a legal portion that's different. That-
Right, I understand
That
that.
happens everywhere.
But I guess which would fall under the category of what what Phyllis is trying to say, i.e., do we follow the assessors or do we follow the legal standing that Rick's talking about?
I think in discussions with Selectman Hull, and she's been in my office on these a number of times, she's looking at the use of the building.
I
The
understand
use of the
that.
building is more than 4, then the spirit of the ruling was they do not get trash. I think I'm making it correct. And we can certainly do that.
Is it 4 or more?
More than 4.
More than
It's
4.
more than 4, not
So
4
4
or
is
more.
fine.
5
More
or
than
more.
4.
Yeah, more than 4.
More than 4.
Greater than.
What?
See? You have, the different attorneys will give the same more than 4.
5 and more.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I make a motion
Yes.
that we fund the refuse recycling yard waste budget at 1.4780 million.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next motion is to approve the
Yep.
NEPDs, which is stormwater warrant article in the amount of $100,000, which is level funding.
I'll jump in. The advisory board voted for $125,000. In my conversations with the DPW director, I am going to recommend to this board that we level fund this at $100,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
You didn't have to talk.
Great job, Steve.
The next motion
Starting to
is,
fade.
You want to cut the shade trees too? And the
No, I didn't cut anything else, no.
the fourth article is the motion to approve the water main improvements warrant article in the amount of $400. Rick?
This continues water main improvements, which we had stopped for a number of years, we've done the last couple of years. We'll be focusing on, with this funding on Brook Street, Greenwood Ave, and also on some 4-inch main that we want to replace to increase the size to where it should be. We have a number of streets in town with 4-inch main that we want to address.
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Second by Tiz, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Shade tree article in the amount of $15,000.
This is an annual article. It is the same amount as last year, which, if you remember, a couple years ago, we increased that amount. And I'll talk a little bit more about this when we get into shade tree spraying, because it really fits in there.
So moved.
Second.
Aye. Okay, now on to shade tree spraying program.
Request is for $20,000. This has been in place, I believe, 6 years now. One of the highlights that I want to mention here is that if you look at, and it was in the budget book, there was a sheet on cemetery and forestry, on tree removals and trees planted. In 2010, we removed 102, 2011, 94, 2012, 98, 2013, 88. 2014, we only removed 60 trees. And that is partly because of this program of tree spraying, and it's making a big difference. And we planted in 2014, 49 trees, $15,000.
Great.
Excellent. Second. All in favor of the $20,000 public shade tree spraying program?
Aye.
Aye. Discussion? No? Okay. Seventh article, roadway improvements for $200,000.
Request is for 10 million, I'm sorry, $200,000.
So moved.
Yeah.
It's the same as last year, although I did ask Steve for more, and I think he would have liked to, but unfortunately, not possible. The good news is that our Chapter 90 money will go this year from $680,000 up to $1,020,000. So we'll have $1,200,000. Problem still is, we need $1.8 million to stay even. So
For,
we're
are you talking
continually.
just for roadway improvements?
Yes, yeah, so we're continually falling behind. We've been pricing out streets and working with the light department, and just to give you an idea, we're looking at probably doing North Ave, the full length. That's about a $700,000 project. If you do that, this doesn't go far. And all the other projects are up there too, because they're main streets, they're wider, they're longer. And we're trying to do a balancing act on where it's important. But if I was just to do these 5 streets I have listed here, which I think are probably the most critical, that's about 1.6 million. So we're, at some point, it's better than it was last year, but it's still, we're still short, and we're way behind.
Madam Chair.
Sure. Tuesday, Nicole?
Rick, so it's at one point you estimate per year to
If you
keep
remember
up?
from previous discussions, we have 90 miles of public road. If you divide that by 15 years, you need to do 6 miles of road a year. The cost to do 6 miles of road is about $1.8 million. Now, and that's on average. Now you turn around and do a main street, which is, instead of being 26 to 32 feet wide, is 40 feet wide.
But aren't there roads that are narrower and that kind
Right,
of
that's
equals
where
it
we
all
do the
out?
balancing act to try to get the most we can out of it.
So how far behind are we?
We've been
Mile-wise.
underfunded for over 20 years, so I'd say we probably could, if we had the funds and you could get a contractor, we could easily do 20 miles of road, and then we'd be in good shape.
I wish we could, I'll tell you
Yeah,
right
no
now. I mean, everyone
It's
uses the
unbelievable.
roads, whether they're on skateboards, roller skates, bicycles, walking, driving. At some point in time, something's gotta give.
Steve, doesn't the sales tax that we imposed on the additional sales tax on the restaurants?
Well, that's where that 200,000 is coming from.
Okay.
I think if the board does want us to look at increasing that amount, and we all agree, we would certainly love to do it. I think it'd be something under a bonding program, and we'd have to look at that, and maybe we can do that in the next cycle. Let's see where we are, what's coming off, and should we bond, something
I would love
like
to have
that.
you look at that and
Yeah,
get
let's
the
take a look at
figures
that,
to us,
sure.
because
Yeah.
it's only gonna get worse.
Yeah.
You
It's
don't
gonna
think
be
it-
benign neglect, and it's gonna catch up with us, and it'll be like, dog patch, for God's sake.
I mean, the roads have gotten worse because of the snow
Right.
fall away. I mean, Salem Street's a mess, not Grace.
Potholes everywhere.
Water Street is, I watch people literally left to right just to avoid the holes. So how do you play catch-up at this point?
I would agree with Steve, is that, and a lot of communities have done that, as a bond issue. To do
Steve,
that.
there's no way we can fund this year, coming up?
How much? For 20 miles of road?
No, not 20 miles, but take a better chunk out of it than we're taking, just
Well, I
plodding
think,
along.
How much could you
But-
do? How much can you
Well,
literally actually
I
do?
think
You
we'd
told us some
wanna-
years that you
yeah.
couldn't do too much.
Right, well, this is different, because this is done, majority of it by contract. And the best way would be for us to sit down and put a program together to lay all that out for you, and you can see that at different amounts, what you're gonna get.
And we could maybe do that, come back in the
Right.
November town meeting and look at
Yeah.
that. It's an ongoing issue and it.
But you do it in November, it's not gonna happen for another year anyway.
Well, right, but it might not happen for
I
another year.
don't
anyway.
know.
Yeah, no, I know. I just
I'd-
asking the question.
I'd rather, I think looking at the bond issue is, I would like to see that happen, because otherwise we are doing it in piecemeal and we will never catch up.
Yeah.
So to do a big project, to invest in it, to really get the roads shipshape, I think it makes sense to look at that.
Madam Chairman, we had a presentation tonight from a company partnership that's coming into this community. And I think 1.6 million a year, is that what was quoted?
Yeah.
That's something we didn't count on. So even if we floated a bond bill, we have good rating.
Right.
John McCarthy gets us, excellent ratings and everything. I mean, I think it's something we should look at, because, as I said, this is something used by every people.
Yeah.
And it's not your fault. It's the vagaries of New England weather and a terrible winter, but my glory,
It's
I mean,
been
it's-
funding, I mean,
Yeah.
before the mid-nineties, used to cover all of our costs, and we could do the 6 miles we needed. Then, once we hit to around 1995, they weren't increasing the amount, and in one case, they were cutting back. So up until this year, we've only been able to do a third. This will allow us to get to probably 2/3. But if you take that 1/3 over 20 years, that's, we're 2/3 short every year.
every year.
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion that we fund the roadway improvements at $200,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and the last article, Rick, is motion to approve the new sidewalks warrant article in the amount of $50,000.
Yes, and we're, so you know, we're looking, there's a stretch of sidewalk that is on Salem Street that we're in the process of connecting road portion down to Lowell Street. We have sections on Main Street we need to connect around the lake. We also have a number of other sections that we'll look at. $50,000 unfortunately doesn't go a long way. There's a section on North Ave that we're looking at, and we're trying to come up with the best place to do that. And also, I mean, we try to use the Chapter 90 money also for sidewalks when we do that project, because we don't wanna, might as well take advantage of it. Cuts down on roads, but it also fills a need too, so.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we fund the sidewalk improvements for $50,000.
Second.
Moved. Second, Betsy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. I think we're all set. Thank you, Rick. Thanks. Oh, Steve.
Don't go anywhere, he'll be back. I think he can't go home yet.
What do we, oh, yes, do that one. Okay. Moving on to patrolman.
Yes, I'm happy to report to the board that, even though the police department contracts for both of their unions, we can take them together because the settlement is the same, they bargain together. One is the patrolmen's and one is the superior officers, which includes the sergeants and lieutenants. The police contract expired on June 30th, 2014. We have been negotiating for over a year now with them. And while we were apart in the beginning, I'm happy to announce that we have reached a agreement for the years 2014 to 2017. So it is a 3-year contract. I will say that negotiations were spirited and fair and congenial and with a lot of respect on both sides, and particularly the respect that the police officers and the police chief really is evident when you are in these meetings with them, so certainly appreciate that. So I'm very happy to announce that we do have a 3-year contract that is subject to town meeting approval, as they all are. So the vote of the selectmen is, of course, subject to town meeting approval, and the funding of the contract is subject to that. So the economics of this are as follows. The cost of living increases for the fiscal, for July 14th through July 1st, 2014 through June 30th, 2017 are as follows. They are split-year contracts, which we've been doing as a policy and as a money saver for the town. July 1st, 2014, 1.25%. January 1st, 2015, 1.25%. 2015, 1.25%. January 1st, 2016, 1.5%. July 1st, 2016, 1.5%. January 1st, 2017, 1.5%. The cost of living increases for July of 2014 and January of 2015 are the same that all other unions receive from the town, and all other unions are through that time. The other items in the contract are, as you know, we are very lucky to have a police department, one of the 17 in the state that is accredited, which means that they need to follow certain policies and procedures and have those approved by a state panel. And I've been to the approval ceremonies. It's actually very moving. And I'm very proud of the chief and the entire department that they have to, act in a certain way as practices, and that will certainly help the town. If the town were ever in the other end of a lawsuit, we are using best practices, and that's like an insurance policy. That is, and that is an additional 1% to the police officers, and that is merit pay. And I will tell you, there is another union in town that could potentially lose that if they lose accreditation. So that is something that I think is a nice trend and very different than the other areas around us. Night and weekend differential, and a 1% increase there. A uniform increase of $250 per year. And this was one area that the police chief is a stickler on uniforms. And I think that is evident when you see our police officers out there. They're very smartly dressed. They get a uniform allowance, and they've got to be in uniform, and if it rips or tears or whatever in the line of duty, they own it. And those aren't cheap. And I think even if you look at every badge and every straight, he is like being in the Army with him. A new standard that the police chief and I talked a lot about is a stipend, physical fitness stipend. Our feeling is that if our officers meet a national standard, the National Cooper standard, and meet this, they are fitter, they're stronger, they're in better shape, their heart and lungs are better. We're going to save money because of nagging injuries that people go out, they have to be backfilled in overtime. And we also hopefully save lives and extend a much longer career, where if a police officer goes out in a heart and lung issue, it does, there is a pension and it costs the town money, and we're looking to save money. We have one of the finest police departments around, and I say that all the time. You can see how they greet people on the street, how they greet members of this board, and how respectful and they are to everyone. I hear that all the time. I think this contract is fair. It reduces injury and overtime pay. We're going to get the police department in training and in the use of drugs like Narcan. We have a real opiate problem, and the police will be using Narcan for it. The cost of this is $150,000, about 3+%, 3.5% per year. As I said, I think it's a very fair contract, and I would recommend approval.
Madam Chairman, move that we accept this contract, subject to town meeting approval.
Second.
Any discussion?
May I?
Yes.
You people have heard this before, as liaison to the police department, I don't think you can put a price on public safety. And with a police department that keeps our streets and neighborhoods safe, it allows for better quality of living for the people in this community. And we have at the helm Chief Smith, who keeps everyone, men and women, in line, and they, I think they do an outstanding job. As I said, I'll take your word for it. You negotiated, it's a fair contract. Certainly would overwhelmingly approve this, and comment that we're very fortunate to have the police force that we have, from the top right down to the newest recruit. Thank you.
Madam Chair, just
Yes,
quickly
of
too,
course.
and I'll echo what Betsy said, and I'll also point out that a portion of their increase is based on performance, and they have to be accredited. If they lose the accreditation, they lose 1% of the increase per year. So they put their money where their mouth is, and hats off. I think that shows that they're willing to work with us. So, you know, from a business standpoint, I think this is a very good deal for the town.
Yes.
I agree with everything that's been said here, and I know Chief Smith knows what I think about him. I think he's the best we've had. I think the police department is wonderful. However, brought this subject up before, and I'm bringing it up now so that you'll know, I just feel like we have got to get somebody in the police department to answer, to sit downstairs at that office. I hear this day after day after day, and we've been talking about it for a long time. We need to get somebody downstairs. I mean, you go in there, you got a telephone, if somebody, you know, they're saying, well, come in here to the police department, you can do business on the street floor. No, you can't. There's nobody there. We absolutely, I just am adamant about that. We need somebody. I don't know, I know you have to move the furniture or the books upstairs from downstairs, but we have to have somebody downstairs so that we don't have to go on the phone. And I think that's very important. And I know it's very important to hundreds of people in town. I hear this every day.
You know, Phyllis and I have had this discussion. She's completely right. And in fact, last Friday, I think it was last Friday, I met with the police chief and his management team, his lieutenants, on this exact issue. And we'll be coming forward to this board with a request to look at the feasibility of moving that communications downstairs where it should have been all along when the building was built. And you're absolutely right, and we'll be coming forward with that, Phyllis. So thank you for sensitizing us to that.
Any other discussion? No. Someone made the motion?
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor of the police department's budget? Subject to approval. Aye.
Contracts.
Contract, sorry. No, the budget, that's right. We're going on almost 2 hours
I
here.
know.
The contract subject to town meeting approval. Thank you. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Wait, are we at parking ban?
We are.
Parking ban discussion. Steve Mayo to present.
Okay, Selectman Glenn brought this up at a meeting last week about the overnight parking ban in Wakefield. And basically what it says is that any time after midnight, no car can be on the street for more than an hour, parked on the street for more than an hour between midnight and 7 a.m., I guess it is. This causes some issues for families in town that have kids, particularly during the Christmas break or spring break when they come back from college. The college-age kids come back and they have no place to park. It causes some problems with the police going out and doing their job and giving tickets to people. They come in very upset and they say to me, Steve, it's a 60-degree winter night, or maybe that's exaggeration, it's a 40-degree winter night and nothing's happening, and why do we do the place? Because of getting the cars off the road when we do have snow. And that is an issue. But I do think that this year, we proved that by the use of Facebook, by the use of the reverse 911 system, during a snow emergency, we are getting people off the roads, and I think we probably towed 4 or 5 cars during this winter. Is that correct, Chief? Maybe 4 or 5?
Yeah, that's correct,
Over the life of the winter. Wow. So this is something the board has brought up a number of times. I think that the Madam Chair asked to make sure that everyone was here to weigh in. So I have Rick tonight, maybe the police chief can come up and we can all, because there are some differing views on this, and I think the board should hear them and then decide what they think that they want to do. So I'm in favor of making the change to an emergency. I think that during an emergency, we could post narrower streets anyway, and maybe that no parking would be for a while on a narrow street. But that's my opinion. I think the DPW director has, I know that he has an opinion. He's written it out. And I know
Quite
the
lengthy
chief-
one.
Quite lengthy one. I couldn't expect anything else, but I think you did want all of the parties here to hear from him, so.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. First, I guess we disagree and recommend that you don't change the current setup, and a number of reasons. First and most important is safety. Many of our roads are obviously narrow, and with snow on them, they get even narrower. Emergency vehicles and other large equipment can't get down many of the streets. And you might say, well, that happened, and that's true. But the difference in the daytime is people are awake and aware. What happens at nighttime between that 1 and 6 a.m. time period, people are in bed, they're not up and about, and God forbid a fire truck or an ambulance couldn't get down the street. It happened in Lynn this year. They could, during the day, they could not get down on a house that was on fire. They had to wait for one Public Works to come up and clear snow to get by. And so I think the safety issue is really important. The impact on the ability to clear roads, I think, is very important. And a good example is when you look at the square. Because of the parking in the square and the parking on the side streets during the day because of the businesses, we actually have to come back to clear those streets from 12 to 6 a.m. To make sure that's all clear. And we do that every single storm. There are a number of roads that we've run into that we can't get equipment down when cars are parked along the roadway, daytime or nighttime. Those streets end up just sitting there. We leave until they get moved, okay? Because we can't get equipment down there. Big one is not everyone's connected to reverse 911. There are people from out of town that come into town. They don't get the messages. We reach about 70% of the reverse 911 people. When we do that call, and we haven't done it on every storm, this would require, and I'll get into it in a minute, doing reverse 911s at 2 to make sure people were off the road in a snowstorm. And not everyone's hooked up to the reverse 911. This year, we received so many calls for people who were not connected to the reverse 911. It was amazing. I think you will increase towing. All right, I don't think it will go down. And that increase in towing will increase a number of things. It's gonna take more time from the police department because they give a ticket whenever we have a car towed and towing of that vehicle. It's gonna increase aggravation of people who have to now pay to be towed, pay a ticket, and also locate wherever their car may be. At 2 in the morning, we're just gonna ticket, we're gonna tow. I mean, we don't know where to go, that car's gonna be moved, okay? And that's what we do now. We didn't tow, not just this year, most years during the storm, we don't tow very many cars because we do have that parking ban. It allows us that cleanup time to get things done. The late night notification, I don't know anyone who can say that a storm's gonna arrive at 9 o'clock. Or if they say 7 o'clock in the morning, it might come in at 3 o'clock in the morning. how are these people gonna be notified who are parked along the street? And we come by, we're gonna tow that vehicle. I think it drastically impacts our ability to clear roads. I would hate to see us end up in a situation like cities that, especially this year, I mean, you've seen cars buried, you've seen vehicle plowing in cities like that, you've seen one-way streets put up because they couldn't get down. We don't have that problem. I wouldn't want to see us create that problem. And I think that's what would happen, we would create that problem. If anything, we'd like to see the parking ban expanded, but I know that's not gonna happen, so, but I can always ask, I guess. I think we're gonna end up with a poor job in the end. Because if we do allow them to park and we're plowing, we're not gonna be able to go back and re-plow that street. We're not gonna get to get that pushed back to the corners, and I think that's an issue. Bottom line is, we recommend that you don't change from what we do now. I think it's effective. I think you've heard from, I think one of the reasons that we've been better than Stoneham, Melrose, and all the surrounding communities and other places is because of that parking ban. I think that's part of this, and it really has a big impact on that.
Do we want to hear from Rick first, or?
Yes.
Okay, and then we'll discuss. Chief?
Okay. I, 18 months or 2 years ago, I came to this board and suggested that the parking ban be revisited. The parking ban as we know it today, and obviously, we're here again, it didn't happen. Frankly, I want to see the parking ban rescinded. I think it's inherently unfair, first of all. Rick made a lot of good points. We don't tag after April 1st, even though the town bylaw says that we should be tagging all summer long. We don't tag. That has we don't have a problem with cars blocking streets. We don't have a problem with emergency equipment. We don't have a problem with any of that from April until December 1st. December 1st, the switch takes us 2 weeks to get people in tune. We have cars parked up on sidewalks. We have cars parked on the curbs. We have cars parked all over the place. It is a nightmare for us because we don't do it year-round. To do it year-round is political suicide for the police department. So frankly, I don't see a safety issue. And I don't see a safety issue because we use the media very well. We just don't do it by reverse 911. We do it using the Boston media. We use it doing radio, television, the internet, WCAT. We use every media outlet that we have access to. If we are clear and consistent with our messages around snow time, we get the message out and we set the window far enough out, I don't see a problem with that. I'm not a snowplow expert, but I feel on public safety, vehicle movement, and what goes on in this town in that regard. As far as the snow emergency goes, if we manage that correctly, and if we do it consistently, and we did it this year, which happens to be, everybody knows, the worst year we've had since record keeping started in this state for snow. I would take this year out of the picture and look at the years past and look at years going forward. Prior to last year, the biggest snow we had was 1995. Prior to that was a blizzard of 78. I would rather deal with those like we did this year, very professionally and very inadequately, and take the unfairness out of the system that we have now and allow cars to be parked on the street. That doesn't mean the Wakefield Police Department is going to stop tagging. We're going to be out there tagging any violations, whether it's day, night, summer, or winter, blocking hydrants, handy driveways, whatever. Those are violations that we tag for anyway. Then if you throw the winter parking ban on top of it, I just think it's completely unfair. As far as parking bans, Melrose has a parking ban. And their streets are plowed just like our streets are plowed. Everett, all these other cities and towns, they have odd, even, they have odd month, even month, they have odd week, even week, whatever it may be, odd night, even night, and it all works. But it works because of good communication from City Hall, a Town Hall. Stoneham uses reverse 911. I don't want to tell everyone where I live, but I live in Stoneham. And we don't have a problem. I live on a street that goes to a school, and we're notified. The cars are off the street. And they extended it out this year. They extended the storm. Streets were plowed, pushed back. Cars were allowed to park on the street. The residents were able to, make the adjustment. Residents are very, very good. If we do the right thing and we educate the people correctly, they listen. Sure, we're gonna get a few, we're gonna tow a few, we're gonna tag a few. You only tag them and tow them once, and they get the message. People in this town are very receptive to that. We've proven that in the past, so frankly, I think I'm in favor of it. I think that we should eliminate the parking ban as we know it in the bylaw today, and then do our due diligence to the people that we serve by making the proper and timely notice to remove the cars off the street so that Rick and his people can get out there and plow the snow and move the snow back.
Pat?
Yeah, Steve, what year was this put in place, do you know?
18.
Yeah, no, many, many years ago.
All right,
Yeah.
and out of respect to Rick's concerns, Rick, I understand that this is a nuisance for you. It's really a management headache, because, it's just another layer of your responsibilities. And with all due respect, I mean, we have to always look at how we can improve things. And the reason I asked the question as to when this law was put into place, or this bylaw was put into place, is I would almost guarantee that weathermen were predicting the weather with a magic marker and a sheet of paper. There was no Doppler radar, telling us what the weather's gonna be a week in advance. We know what the weather's gonna be a week in advance. You can send that message out a week in advance and tell people, there's a parking ban on starting Tuesday, and the police have ample time before a storm hits to get that. And if they're parked there, and you can keep the ban in place for 2 months if you have to. Like right now, we would probably have most of the month of February into March. There'd still be a parking ban in place. There's no saying that you can't do that. There was no home computers, there were no cell phones. I get probably 3 different media. I know what's going on in Wakefield. I know what, all the time. So I think that the times change, technology changes, and I know it's more difficult for you, but, all of us in our jobs are being asked to do more every day. I think that these safety items, I agree with the police chief, there's ample time to plan and prepare. It's more work for you, I understand that, but I think that maybe 10 years ago, but now with Facebook and social media, and along with cell phones, home phones, email, I think that we owe it to these citizens of the town to say, to Steve's point, on a 40-degree night, just because it's easier for us, when it snows out, it's not fair. And I'll add to that when this law was put in place, I'll bet that the majority of homes in Wakefield had one automobile in their driveway. Now, the average, I don't know what the average is, 3, 4 cars? It's shuffling cars around. It's unfair to the taxpayers and to the citizens of this town to impose this law that's antiquated. It's somewhat similar to what we just changed with the trash program we had. This is much more efficient and much more flexible and much more fair.
And I just to reiterate, obviously it's still valuable. I think there is a safety concern, and it will impact the ability to clean roads to the standard that we do now. There's absolutely no question with that. And you see that in other communities that try this. We look at a lot of different communities. I think one of the reasons that we have been able to get down streets and move things, is because of the policy. And one of the other things is, when we go out and we're clearing the widening streets, which we did more so this year than we do in most, but most years we do. Parked cars hinder that. And we're going out, we don't know they're there, we're going out at 12 at night, and, you know, John Doe's visited, you know, a friend from another town, they're not gonna know that. And these people are gonna end up getting towed, so I think it's gonna result in more towing.
Rick, I have a question for you then. How do people know today that there's a parking ban?
I think that if you're visiting someone, the person who lives there already knows, we send it out in our flyer to everybody. They already know there's a parking ban. They say you can't park your car there after those hours. So they know that. Everyone in town knows that. That's the big difference. The other way, I don't think everyone's gonna know when it's on, when it's off, because as well as, or as good as social media is, it does not get to everybody. We may like to think it does, but it does not get to everybody.
I don't think it's just social media too. I think it's Channel 7, Channel 5, Channel 4, folks that will definitely watch the news and to go along with lifting it, but very conservatively. I think if we get a prediction of a snowstorm coming, we call it at 9 p.m. I mean, we don't have to wait till the snow falls. And if for some reason the snow misses us, then it can be lifted. But I would.
Call it 2 days in advance.
Call it 2 days in advance. Keep it for, this would be kept for a month and a half. I would suggest that no one should have been parking on the streets until about a week ago.
Agreed.
And I think what happens when you do that, it's like the traffic light that blinks all the time, and then it goes on automatic, all right? People aren't aware that it's there, and they go through it.
Well, it takes
Okay.
time getting used to.
So now, I give out a snow warning, say, as of 2 days before, there's no parking on the streets for snow. Then it doesn't snow and the storm changes. People are gonna get aggravated with, they're gonna say, well, they just do this for the sake of doing it, all right? And I think that
Right.
is, then people are gonna park no matter what. I just don't think it's gonna work.
And if it doesn't work, we can always revisit, I think. Chief Smith and then.
I think it's an education process, and, you know, it's our job. It's our job as the town to educate people in the direction we want to go. And it works everywhere else. We call a snow emergency. We really haven't been calling snow emergencies in my tenure here up until the last few years. Kind of winged it, but in the last few years, we have really paid attention to it. We just can't look at this from the perspective of a couple of snowstorms. We have to look at it from a year-round perspective. This is a huge inconvenience that breeds nothing but bad will for the town on an annual basis, with the exception of snowstorms. And if we manage those snowstorms well and work together as managers, as a team, I think we can mitigate this from that perspective. The biggest piece we get out of this is for the rest of the year, for the other 11 months of the year when we're not getting snowstorms, we're breeding goodwill. We're allowing people. Mr. Glenn, you bring up a good point. Many of these houses that were single-family houses 25 years ago are multiple-family houses today with 2 or 3 cars. These people don't have a place to park their car, or their kids' cars, or their neighbors, or their nephew's car when they come to see it. I hear this every day. Every day of the year, I hear this. And, you know, I've been an advocate of moving. Like I said, I was here 18 months, 2 years ago, to try to work this through, and we're back here again. So, I mean, I think, I understand, and I mean, I'm out at night, I see the job they do, I see what they have to do, I know that getting around cars are a pain, I get that. But I think we had good success this year with using the resources we have to notify people. I think we did a very good job. Is there room for improvement? I think there is. I think we can improve that. But looking at it for a 12-month period, I still maintain that we do ourselves better to do away with something that I think is inherently unfair. Because certain parts of this town get tagged and certain parts don't get tagged. That's not fair. And there's a reason for that. There's a number of reasons why that happens. And the only time certain areas of the town get tagged is when we get complaints. And then we get more complaints. It just becomes a nightmare for us, it becomes a nightmare for the residents. And quite frankly, I think we can do it better. And I think by rescinding this, we can do it.
Paul and Betsy?
I just have a couple of scenarios on this. Let's just say we do rescind what we agree to knock it off and rescind it. This has to go before town meeting, correct?
No, it's a rule and regulation, traffic rule and regulation of the board.
I thought this was a bylaw.
Madam Chair, no, it's not a bylaw, it's a regulation of the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, so if that's the case, then if we can just do this on our own, then we can change this back within a year's period, correct? If it doesn't work out, if Rick is right, if Mr. Stinson is absolutely correct, okay, we can rescind this at the whim of this board, correct? I mean, we could put it back to the way it was.
Sure, we can put it on the agenda and discuss reasons. Sure.
Okay, I don't think I would include all vehicle, cars, yes. Trucks should still be prohibited from being. So this is any vehicle right now. I don't wanna be seeing 18-wheelers like I do now, parked on the streets overnight. I don't wanna see cars parked on sidewalks, as I see right now. When you drive up and down Montrose, if you drive up and down certain parts of the town, they should all be getting tagged. That's the right of way. I mean, that's safety in the essence, okay, where someone shouldn't be forced to walk in the street to get from point A to point B. So this has to be worded correctly.
Well, but this
You know-
doesn't, this isn't gonna, pardon me,
Right.
but this isn't gonna change any of the parking regulations. This is just gonna say that, with regard to normal parking procedures on a daily basis, all we're gonna say is, there's no ban on parking at nighttime.
But I'm asking that we put the caveat in there that we take up the consideration that I'm asking right now. There's nothing that, right now, that tells them that they can't. So if they're gonna be able to park in the street, if you're gonna put that many more cars in the street, I understand, right, there's a lot more cars now involved. It means that they can park in the street. It has no right that they say, well, the street's full, I'm gonna put half my car up on the sidewalk and half my car on the street so that I can fit more cars there.
The reason they're on the sidewalk is they can't park on the street.
Right.
And that's part of the unfairness that I'm talking about, is that on some streets in this town, they have to get off, so they're parking on front lawns, they're parking on the sidewalk, they're parking in driveways with the tail of the car blocking the sidewalk. To me, that's inherently unfair. If they, in that case, it's very cut and dry. You have the right to park on the street, put the car on the street, or put the car in your driveway. If it's on the sidewalk, we're gonna tag it.
Okay.
You know, I mean, that makes it a lot easier from that perspective on a 12-month basis.
So let's get past that part. I have no problem with doing as Selectman Glenn is requesting, but I don't think it should cover all vehicles. Some wordage in there that excludes commercial. I don't think that trucks should be able to park overnight. That's a large vehicle now, in my opinion.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think I'm sensing I'm in the minority in this. Number one, to your point, and that's like, after it's all said and done, when the vote comes down, you know, a huge SUV, you know, is that a truck, is it a car, is it this, is it that, you know, blah, blah, blah. This is all a matter of perception of what a vehicle is. This is a 365-day-a-year ban, all right? Again, and with all due respect to Mr. Glenn, and after hearing from both of these gentlemen, I know I'm in the minority. I know I am. But I would throw out this. Some dates were made tonight during one of your presentations, Rick, and it was November 15th through April 1st, was it not?
The ban is December 1st through
December 1st through April 1st, right?
That's when we enforce.
That's when you enforce it.
There is no ban.
Yeah.
The ban is 12 months.
No, that's what I'm saying. The ban is 365. I understand that. we don't enforce it from December 1st, we do enforce it from December 1st to April 1st. I understand that, give or take a week either way, if people use good sense and know that there's a snow coming, get your car off the road. I voted in favor of your recommendation the last time, Mr. Stinson, and I will tonight, although I know I'm sure I'm in the minority. I would like to think that we could change this to only include December 1st through April 1st, so we're not throwing out the entire thing. Because now it comes down to a judgment call by people in this community. And at some point in time, I think we have to go by the person that I'm listening to. You know, with all due respect, and you know I support the police 100%, in this case 99%, but I'm not in favor of throwing the whole thing out. I'm really not. I have to go by what you say. You're out there plowing at midnight, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, you know? And no, there are some places in this community that it isn't fair, but the streets are narrow. That happens. That's life. This wasn't laid out like Phoenix, Arizona, with every street exactly so much wide and everything going, you know, on a perfect grid and so forth and so on. New England roads just aren't that way, and communities just aren't laid out that way. But I looked at some of the horror shows in other communities, and there were horror shows that you mentioned tonight. So, with respect to Mr. Glynn, and I respect him, you know, so much, but if I lose this, I lose this. But I just am supporting you, Mr. Stinson. I just can't see throwing the whole thing out all at once. And another thing, First 911, there are many, many people in this community and in a lot of other communities that no longer use their landline. They're using cell phones, and they're not getting the information that's coming through.
We found that out this
And there
year.
is, exactly, and there are some people that just don't answer their phone. Me being one of them.
If I can just add one thing, on your point about not an all-year thing, I think that's a good idea. In regards to the time frame, I think, because I still think it's needed, I think December 1st could be a little too early, and April 1st is a little too late. To me, a good time frame's always been like December 15th to probably March 15th. That's where you get your real snow impact.
How are you gonna get the message out?
Well, it goes right into it's in our brochure.
Just kidding, nobody's gonna know.
You know, to that point, that's an excellent point, Mr. Glenn. I'm glad you made that, because if we have a snowstorm in October, or we have a snowstorm in April, which we've had in the past, we have the same problem that we're trying to cure, that we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
And we do get a lot of snow within that time frame. So my point being, again, it's inherently unfair, and if we have snowstorms outside of that window that we're talking about, we're doing exactly what we're trying to do now on a regular basis with consistency so people understand it.
Rick opened up his presentation tonight about the snow, about saying, I hope we don't get an April 1st storm. That snow didn't evaporate
But I think-
overnight. It probably was there for a couple of days before it melted. We got 2 feet, and so you have to extend the ban. How are you gonna tell people, oh, it's April 1st, now we have a ban?
Difference, and not to disagree with my friend the chief here, but in October when it snows, I don't have snowfall sticking out on both sides of the street.
Right.
In November, when you get into mid-December and into March 15th, your streets narrowed considerably everywhere in town, not every single street. There's not one that doesn't narrow, okay? Once you get past that time frame, with the melting and everything else, it begins to widen out. So I'm not concerned with an October and an early December storm. I'm not concerned with a April Fool's Day storm, because I've had the other elements take care of that. One is that there hasn't been any snow on the ground. The other is it's melting like crazy, thank God, when you get to April.
It does, it requires you to be more nimble, and you can put a ban in place and have it in place for a month, 2 months if necessary. So, I mean, all of these arguments are good, but, you know, with today's technology and the outreach and the change in the demographic that the police chief mentioned, to me, I think we're nimble enough to handle these things we just, it requires us to do a little more work and be a little more diligent. And as the chief mentioned, work together as a team with the public safety folks. You give yourself, if there's a big snowstorm coming, you give yourself 5 days. And you say, in preparation, you know, we're gonna block parking starting Monday. The storm's not scheduled till Saturday. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do, and you give the people the flexibility to do what they need to do, and it can be managed. You know, I think it's antiquated, and I think it's time to change, and I think it's unfair to all these people who have to, you know, to say that we're gonna change it for a portion that we are already enforcing it for, so, and all year, but we only enforce it for this year. That's not a concession. That's not changing anything. Let's say, okay, it's easier for us to manage, let's leave it in place because it's easier for us. That's not fair. It's not fair, so.
I just want to say, there have been instances, and I'm at a rare instance here when usually we always agree all the time, the three of us here, so this is interesting. But we do have the authority and the ability to say, and we've done it in the last few years, we've banned parking 24 hours on streets that have been narrow. We did it behind the limited parking and stopping behind the Greenwood School a couple of years ago because of the situation. That can happen, so I think we are always trying to improve to ban parking completely for everybody. A lot of people come into our office and have an issue with this for, you know, 80% of the time, nothing's happening out there. We have 25 snow events in a 4-month period. It does get difficult with some of the community members, but I think we can manage it, would be I agree with Mr. Glenn.
Madam Chairman, one last comment, if I may. I will just say, you know, regardless of how the board votes, and I'm not gonna lose any sleep over it, quite frankly, but I would not want to chastise the DPW for not performing in the fashion in which they should, or which is expected. And we can't have it both ways. If the DPW director says, you know, it's really not a good thing to do, and this board disagrees, so be it, that's life, that's the way it goes. But I don't think we can come back, if we ever, God forbid, if we could have another winter the way we had this year, and say, hey, look, you know, I'm getting a lot of complaints, the streets were blah, blah, blah. I don't wanna hear it, you know what I'm saying? Saying that, no, regardless of what the board does, the board, you know, will make the decision. That's the way it is.
Just a quick comment, Madam Chairman. So, with respect to 911, and I understand we reach 70% of the people, I think the town as a whole should notify every single resident that they should register their cell phones with the reverse 911 calls. If they do that, great. If they don't do that, tough luck.
Right.
You know, that's the way it is. We gave you the opportunity to do this. You didn't take advantage of it. Now, don't blame us for not coming and registering your phone in that regard. You know, the communication is going to be critical, and I think we word this somehow that it allows, you know, for, or gives the authority to either Steve Mayo or Rick Stinson, the authority to extend the ban for, you know, time given the weather conditions. And if people decide to ignore that ban, we've notified them, they've ignored it, then so be it. You're at risk of getting your car towed, getting ticketed, whatever the case may be. You know, parking on one side of the street, not all streets allow for parking on both sides of the street, right? Maybe, you know, maybe the parking should be on one side of the street overnight, if that's gonna assist the DPW in any way. So I just think that, you know, I agree with Pat that this is a little bit antiquated, and I think, you know, it should be addressed accordingly. So that's my take. You know, I mean, we can only do so much. We can't, you know, we can lead the cattle to the drinking water, but if they don't want to drink, then hey, not our problem. That's the way I see it.
Do we have a vote on this, or this was just a discussion?
You can have a vote on it. You could ask us to come back and draft something, whatever the board would prefer.
I think it might make sense to draft something,
Yeah,
since
I would
we're,
Well, I think we can vote on it and then have them draft it.
What are we voting on?
Make it subject to approval
Why are we drafting anything? Either we want a
Yeah.
ban or we don't want a ban.
Right,
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, let's just-
Either we want a ban or we don't want a ban.
Right.
Well, what are we,
I think
what
that,
are we adding to this? It's
the
crazy.
drafting part was to give guidance to the DPW and to how the 911's gonna go out, if it's gonna go out early. That's probably more of a policy behind the
Oh,
scenes.
what is the
than
ban
the-
gonna say? We notify people if there's a snowstorm and this? Are we gonna start saying you can't have a truck, you can't have the, I never saw trucks or big, trailers parked on downtown at night all the time.
I'll show you several streets in Wakefield where that happens.
It's crazy. Either we have a ban or we don't have a ban.
I agree.
I agree with
I think
Phyllis
from
as
our
well.
point of view, we would want a pretty clear guidance document. And one of the examples I'll give you is that if we get, right now, or in March, early March, we get an inch of snow, okay? My sand trucks won't get up and down some of these streets. What are we gonna do there, and how are we gonna handle that? Are we gonna call in a ban ahead of time, or are we gonna just take it in tow? I think those things you wanna address.
You're gonna call in ahead of time. If there's, you err on the side of caution. You'll have the power to ban parking a week in advance if you have to. And if people complain and they don't like it, that's the breaks.
Yeah, but I think also how far in advance. Example is this weekend was supposed to be a dusting, okay? Ended up a little more than a dusting, and a couple weeks ago, it ended up 2.5 inches. Where does that call come
To
from?
your earlier point, this
Okay.
weekend, there still would have been a parking ban in place because the road is, my street is impeded probably 4 feet by the current snowbanks. To use your logic, Rick, if you get an inch and it's early in the year, there's no parking ban. Who cares? No, your point about, you just made the point earlier.
Well, I think, I
Well,
mean,
well,
we're
there's
not
probably
talking
a ban
about.
during the snow,
Right.
during the plowing operation.
Fine.
But then it might be lifted.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about changing it today. I mean, I would suggest
No.
this stays through
Starting-
April 1st.
starting next year.
Starting next year, which gives us plenty of time.
Yeah.
And I agree having a directive. I agree having a discussion about what makes sense.
What's the policy for making you get a winter like this year, what's the policy for making it 2 months?
May I make a,
Absolutely, and we will make it clear, but because the parking ban's gonna stay, we're not changing it for this year. So everyone's cars are off the road.
my suggestion, Rick, to answer that question
first.
would be the DPW director in consultation with public safety and the town administrator. You guys collectively make the decision, and off you go. You guys all work pretty well together and make good decisions.
I just, if I can chime in, we make a policy decision, we've made a policy decision not to tag in the summertime. That's not in the rule. So that policy decision, what Rick's talking about is strictly a policy decision that's made behind closed doors, and how we're gonna operate that. I don't think that's something that we should be bothered with right now. I mean,
Right.
one thing or not. Another thing, to go to what Mr. Dodo said, as far as reverse 911, Chief Sullivan has done yeoman's work, 90% of this community or whatever, online with 911, reverse 911. I am sure that for his purposes, as well as the police department's purposes, we could launch that campaign again. He did a ton of work to get these people online, and all we have to do is just use the same database and send that message out again and get people online. And knowing Chief Sullivan like I know him, he will get that done for us.
Want a motion?
Certainly.
Somebody
I
else
make
can
a
do it.
motion that we, beginning, the beginning of next, I guess,
Well, I guess we're lifting the ban.
lifting the ban
but
effective, I would say then, effective April 2nd. So that, let's get through this period, and then we'll get through this year, beginning April 2nd, 2015, we lift parking ban, the overnight parking ban.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Yep, Tiz.
I just, do we wanna, I understand everybody just wants to do it and get it done. But do we make it subject to, an executive order or whatever that we wanna call it, outlining
Well, I
the
think-
details or?
You know, we do a lot of policy decisions now. For
Right.
instance, we made the decision, Rick and I, Rick Stinson and I, in consultation with public safety, we banned parking downtown for, 24 hours. We didn't, we did
Okay.
that during the, so it was a, policy. I think we do have the ability to do that.
Okay, that's fine with me. I
That's
put
already
my
in
trust
place.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, all in favor?
Of
Aye.
lifting the ban?
Lifting the ban.
Aye.
All opposed?
The cheese stands alone.
Thank you both very much for your comments and
Thank you, guys.
weighing in. Okay. Let's see.
Yeah.
No, we
No,
have
you got
three quick little
three quick
things. A minute and a half. I need a motion, a request from Sharon Gilly, Director of Lucius Beebe, to accept and spend a gift to the library in the amount of $3,374.17.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have two license requests from Igor Garcia for a common victual license for Formaggio Pizzeria,
I
927
think
Main
that's
Street.
formerly Big John's.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second request related for an entertainment license for Formaggio Pizzeria. I'm guessing a TV.
Radio TV.
Radio TV.
Second. Yeah, so moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, comments, town council.
If I had anything to say, it's to bring it up. And I hope everybody benefits from my example.
Mrs. Hull, Phyllis.
I've had everything I had to say during the meeting.
Good. All right, Betsy.
The ethics test, I know I sound like, such a school marm about the whole
Did
foolish
it.
thing, but anyway, I just want to remind everybody.
Has everybody done it, Sherry, on the
No.
board? No.
Okay, I'm
All
just
right,
bringing it up,
please
'cause I don't
make
want
sure you
it,
get them done.
I don't want it to come back to us.
We can out
Reminder.
people at the next meeting if they
Yeah.
have.
we-
Okay.
I haven't done it
We will
all
remind you
myself.
personally, privately.
It's not, it doesn't take that long. You can skip some questions.
And
Yes.
there was a kid yesterday that played at the Jazz Just or Just Jazz or whatever the blazes you chose to call that, which is a tongue twister at best. A Galvin Middle School kid
Oh.
that I'm telling you, his name is McNamara. This
He
kid.
was the leader of the band.
Leader of the
Just
band.
say so, honest to God. This kid
Oh, good.
was fantastic. He was there, dressed in a nice suit coat and a tie and everything. He looked like $1 million. He played music from the 30s, 40s, 50s. This kid, and I had several songs and I'd hum them and he'd play them. This kid is going somewhere. He was absolutely fantastic. And he's probably in probably the 7th grade, I don't know, 6th, he's at the middle school. And it's he was fantastic, and I just wanted to give him a shout out. It was wonderful. Thanks.
Paul?
I'm going to continue with her shout out because
Didn't take your food, just
one
food
one
pantry.
additional thing, as far as Ricky was concerned, was he didn't use any sheet music. So it was all out from
by
his
ear.
ear, and he just played. It was a great event for everyone that came. They had a great time. Other than that, I have nothing further.
Mr. Glenn?
Remember the food pantry.
Oh, good job, good job. All set? Mr. Mayor?
I'm following town council's lead on this.
Excellent.
God is good.
Have a wonderful beginning of
Motion
spring,
to adjourn.
everybody. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Woo.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Staying so late. Good meeting.